They say some paintings aren't just art, they're alive. Some claim this one cursed painting has ruined lives, driven people insane, even left a trail of death in its wake. What if the stories are true? Imagine walking into a quiet room, your eyes settling on a painting hanging alone on the wall. At first, it seems normal, beautiful, even mesmerizing. But as the days go by, people start noticing strange things. Shadows that shouldn't exist, whispers that aren't there, and a feeling that someone or something is watching. This isn't fiction. This is the story behind a painting that history forgot to warn us about. Today, we're uncovering the truth behind a cursed masterpiece, the mysteries surrounding its creation, the people who dared to own it, and the inexplicable events that followed. By the end of this video, you'll wonder if some objects are better left untouched. The story begins in the early 1800s, in a small town known for its artists and craftsmen. A painter named Leonard Malthus was famous not just for his skill, but for his obsession with capturing emotions so vividly they almost felt alive. His works were celebrated, yet there was something about his paintings that made people uneasy. One particular piece, now referred to as the Midnight Portrait, quickly became the subject of rumors. Unlike his other paintings, which were bright and full of life, this one was darker, almost brooding. The subject, a young woman with piercing eyes, seemed to follow viewers wherever they went. From the moment it was completed, those who came into contact with it reported unusual events. The first owner, a wealthy merchant, noticed small accidents around his home. Objects falling for no reason, cold drafts, unexplained sounds in empty rooms. Soon, friends visiting the merchant started falling ill, some even claiming to have nightmares of the woman in the painting reaching out to them. Within a year, the merchant's fortune dwindled, and he moved away, leaving the painting behind. The story didn't end there. Whoever took possession next experienced similar misfortunes. Historians have debated whether these occurrences were coincidence, mass hysteria, or something genuinely supernatural. Some documents reveal that Malthus himself became increasingly paranoid near the end of his life. Letters he wrote mentioned the painting having a life of its own and a hunger for attention. It's hard to know whether these were metaphors or confessions. Scholars continue to study his journals, trying to separate truth from delusion. But the pattern of misfortunes surrounding the Midnight Portrait persisted long after Malthus died. What makes this painting especially terrifying is its recorded influence over human behavior. In one account, a collector who purchased it in the 1920s reported hearing faint whispers at night. She described waking in the middle of the night to find herself standing in front of the painting, unable to remember how she got there. Over the next month, her mental health deteriorated. Doctors at the time were baffled, attributing her condition to stress. But friends noticed that she would often speak to the painting as if it were alive, warning it not to take her away. Adding to the mystery, some scientific studies have examined objects historically labeled as cursed, Experts in environmental psychology note that human perception is highly influenced by suggestion and fear. When someone believes an object is cursed, their mind can create real physical and psychological symptoms. Could it be that the midnight portrait is simply a psychological trigger, amplified over decades? Or is there something more sinister at play? Something beyond the realm of science? Even modern owners of the painting have reported strange phenomena. A gallery curator in London described a sudden drop in temperature around the painting, along with shadows that seemed to move independently of light sources. Surveillance footage shows objects shifting positions overnight, but no human presence was detected. When asked about these events, the curator admitted feeling a constant pressure near the painting, as though the eyes in the portrait were watching, waiting, judging. Then there are the stories of people disappearing. In the 1960s, a young student borrowed the painting for study purposes. He was found days later, wandering in the streets, unable to speak, eyes wide with terror, muttering incoherently about her waiting. Medical professionals could not explain his condition. Did the painting somehow influence his mind? Or had he simply experienced an extreme psychological reaction to fear? These questions remain unanswered. As the years went by, the painting changed hands multiple times, each new owner seemingly cursed in some way. From financial ruin to illness to inexplicable accidents, the pattern is consistent. Some skeptics insist that all the stories are coincidental, but the sheer number of similar accounts makes it hard to ignore. What is it about the midnight portrait that causes such strong reactions in people? Is it a case of collective paranoia, a clever piece of art designed to unsettle, or something truly supernatural? What really makes the story gripping is the uncertainty. Unlike other haunted or cursed objects, the midnight portrait has tangible proof of existence, detailed records of its owners, and credible witnesses. It isn't just a legend passed down orally. It's documented history, mixed with personal experiences that defy easy explanation. The painting itself is now carefully guarded, displayed in a museum under strict conditions. Visitors are warned of its unsettling presence, and some choose to avoid it entirely. Yet curiosity drives others to stare directly into the eyes of the painted woman, searching for answers or simply for the thrill. By now, the legend of the midnight portrait had grown far beyond the small town where it was first painted. Word of its supposed curse reached art collectors, historians, and thrill seekers alike. Some wanted it for prestige, others for the challenge of confronting something dangerous. But the problem with cursed objects is simple. Curiosity comes at a price. The painting's next documented owner was a prominent businessman named Arthur Holloway. In 1934, he acquired the piece at an estate sale, unaware of the dark rumors surrounding it. At first, everything seemed normal. The painting hung in his study, perfectly framed, its presence almost decorative. But soon, things began to unravel. Doof. Holloway reported hearing faint footsteps in the hallways at night. even when his house was empty. Items disappeared and reappeared in odd places. What alarmed him most were the dreams. Each night, he dreamt of the woman in the painting, standing silently in his room, staring with those piercing eyes, and sometimes smiling, though the expression never reached her eyes. It wasn't just Holloway who was affected. His family noticed strange behavioral changes. His daughter became withdrawn, often speaking to herself as if responding to someone invisible. His wife began having fainting spells and nightmares she couldn't explain. Holloway tried to dismiss it as stress, yet the timing was too precise. Each incident coincided with the painting's presence. Friends visiting the house felt inexplicably anxious, some leaving early, claiming the painting made them uneasy in a way they couldn't describe. Reports like these raise an important question. What makes people susceptible to cursed objects? Psychologists point out a phenomenon called the nocebo effect, where negative expectations can cause real symptoms. If someone believes a painting is cursed, their mind and body may react as though it truly is. Fear becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But what separates the Midnight Portrait from other objects is the sheer consistency of these accounts, spanning decades and continents. In the 1950s, a university professor named Dr. Eleanor White became intrigued by the painting. She approached it as a scientific experiment. She documented the experiences of people who spent time in the same room with the painting, measuring heart rate, blood pressure, and psychological responses. Surprisingly, most participants reported heightened anxiety, unease, and in some cases, visual hallucinations. Some saw the eyes of the portrait shift when they weren't looking directly at it. Others reported hearing whispers or faint laughter. Dr. White concluded that the painting might be triggering a rare psychological response, a mix of fear conditioning and subconscious suggestion. Yet not all phenomena could be explained scientifically. In one documented incident, a night watchman in the museum where the painting was stored reported seeing the frame bend slightly, as though the painting itself were breathing. Cameras installed afterward captured nothing unusual, and the incident was dismissed as imagination. But the watchman insisted it was real. His colleague, a skeptic, admitted he later felt an undeniable weight when standing near the painting, as though the air itself had grown heavier. The painting's curse or perceived curse also had tangible consequences. One wealthy collector reportedly spent a fortune trying to restore and clean the piece. After weeks of careful work, he fell ill and died under mysterious circumstances. Investigators could not find a cause, and rumors quickly spread. The painting had claimed another victim. Such stories only heightened the allure and fear surrounding the artwork. Some even speculated that the woman in the portrait was not just a subject, but a vessel, a presence that had somehow been trapped or awakened by Malthus. Some historians have tried to trace the origin of the woman in the painting. Theories abound. Some claim she was a relative of Malthus, possibly a muse he loved obsessively. Others suggest she was a local figure, known for her beauty, but with a dark reputation, accused of witchcraft or other misdeeds. If Malthus captured her essence too vividly, perhaps the curse is a residual effect of his obsession. Could the painting carry not just artistic skill, but a fragment of her spirit? Across continents, the stories continued. In the 1970s, a gallery in New York displayed the painting temporarily. Several visitors experienced fainting, dizziness, and even violent headaches. One man reportedly left the gallery screaming, insisting the eyes of the painting were following him, whispering his secrets back to him. Security footage showed nothing unusual, but the witness's distress was undeniable. Gallery staff, many of whom were rational and skeptical, admitted they felt something strange whenever the painting was brought out of storage. What is particularly chilling is the pattern of interaction. People often report feeling watched, experiencing physical sensations, and having dreams connected to the painting. Even those who approach it scientifically, like Dr. White, notice subtle changes, temperature drops, feelings of pressure, shadows that seem independent of light. It's a psychological phenomenon, yes, but also one that defies full explanation. Some researchers call it object-linked anxiety, a rare reaction to stimuli that carry deep historical, emotional, or cultural resonance. But this still doesn't explain the sheer consistency over nearly 2 centuries. Then there are the modern accounts. In the 1990s, a collector in Europe took photographs of the painting at different angles. Upon developing the photos, he noticed something strange. The eyes appeared in different positions in each shot, sometimes following him even when he stood to the side. Experts who reviewed the images could not explain the anomaly. Digital manipulation was ruled out, and the mystery only deepened. One common thread across all these stories is that the painting seems to provoke obsession. Owners feel compelled to stare longer than comfortable, to understand it, or to unlock its secrets. This compulsion often grows over time, sometimes manifesting as paranoia, insomnia, or irrational fears. Some victims attempt to destroy the painting or discard it, only to find themselves thwarted by misfortune or accident. Is it coincidence, the human mind playing tricks, or something more? At this point, it becomes clear. The challenge isn't just owning the painting, it's confronting it. Those who try to study, control, or even dismiss it find themselves dragged into a pattern of events that seems to resist explanation. Scholars, psychologists, and paranormal investigators continue to debate whether this is a true curse, a psychological phenomenon, or a combination of both. But the chilling fact remains. Almost everyone who has interacted with the Midnight Portrait reports at least one unnerving, life-altering experience. And yet, curiosity drives people to engage with it. The very uncertainty, the blurred line between fear and fact, is what keeps the painting's story alive. Why do we risk discomfort or danger just to stare at something that might harm us? Perhaps it's the same reason humans are drawn to haunted houses, ghost stories, and mysteries that defy explanation. The thrill of the unknown, the allure of the forbidden. By the late 1990s, the Midnight Portrait had achieved near mythical status. Museums, private collectors, and paranormal enthusiasts all wanted a chance to see it, but few dared to linger. That's when the most chilling events began to surface. Incidents that would cement the painting's reputation as truly cursed. One of the most alarming accounts comes from a retired art historian named Thomas Kellerman. He had studied Malthus extensively and managed to track the painting's movements over decades. In 1997, Kellerman arranged a private viewing in his home, determined to analyze the work firsthand. What he experienced that night defies easy explanation. As he examined the painting under dim light, he noticed the woman's eyes seemed impossibly lifelike, almost shifting, blinking, and following him in a way no brushstroke should allow. By midnight, he reported feeling a presence behind him, a cold sensation brushing against the back of his neck. When he turned, the room was empty. For the next several hours, Kellerman claimed he was caught in a state between sleep and wakefulness, unable to look away from the painting. He described hearing whispered phrases, words he could not fully comprehend, though they seemed to speak directly to him. By dawn, he was physically exhausted, mentally shaken, and unable to leave the house. Friends who visited later reported seeing him staring blankly at the painting, muttering fragments of language he did not recognize. Some believed he had experienced a kind of possession. Even more alarming were disappearances linked to the painting. In 2002, a graduate student named Layla Moreno borrowed the painting for research. She was last seen entering her study to photograph it. Hours later, colleagues found the room empty, the lights on, her camera recording, but no trace of Layla. Authorities investigated thoroughly, but there were no signs of forced entry and no footprints beyond the room. The only clue was the camera footage, showing her staring at the painting, then vanishing from view as if swallowed by thin air. The incident remains unsolved. Stories like these ignited a media frenzy. News outlets published articles calling the painting the object that defies logic. Paranormal investigators, skeptical scientists, and journalists all tried to study it, yet most left with reports of intense unease, nightmares, or strange physical sensations. One investigator, a man named Dr. Samuel Crane, described a sensation of pressure, like a hand pressing on your chest, while observing the painting. He insisted he could feel the eyes tracking him, and that his own thoughts were somehow intruded upon. Despite his academic background in psychology, he could not rationalize the experience. Even technology seemed unable to escape the painting's influence. Surveillance cameras, which had captured inexplicable movement in the past, started malfunctioning. Hard drives containing footage corrupted overnight. Digital thermometers recorded temperature drops of 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit around the painting in empty rooms. Some researchers began theorizing that the object emits a form of energy, perhaps unknown to science. that interacts with both human perception and electronic equipment. As the legend grew, so did the psychological impact. People who spent extended periods near the painting began showing signs of obsessive behavior, paranoia, and insomnia. One case involved a young artist attempting to replicate the portrait. After weeks of work, he reported hearing constant whispering and seeing fleeting shadows in his studio. Eventually, he abandoned the project entirely, claiming the painting was stealing my soul and leaving permanent marks on his psyche. What makes these accounts particularly disturbing is their consistency. Across continents and decades, witnesses describe the same phenomena: the eyes that follow, the whispers, the cold drafts, the shadows that move independently, and a compulsion to stare. Whether it's a psychological effect, an unexplained energy, or something supernatural, the pattern is undeniable. Some theorists propose a darker possibility, that Malthus somehow trapped the essence of the woman he painted, embedding it into the canvas. Could obsession, grief, or dark rituals have caused a fragment of consciousness to remain in the painting? Historical documents are sparse, but a few letters from Malthus suggest he believed he had captured more than likeness. He claimed he could preserve the soul of his subject if painted correctly, though he did not elaborate. Modern historians debate whether these claims were metaphorical, delusional, or literal. The painting's curse also appears selective. Not everyone is affected equally. Some report no negative effects at all, while others experience intense psychological or physical symptoms. Researchers call this a triggered susceptibility, suggesting that personality, prior trauma, and belief may influence how one reacts. Yet even skeptics admit that the sheer number of affected individuals makes coincidence unlikely. In 2010, a team of paranormal investigators arranged a controlled study. They left the painting in a sealed room for 1 week, with cameras, sensors, and volunteers observing. Within the first night, multiple participants reported hearing whispers and feeling cold drafts. Cameras captured subtle shifts in the painting's frame and slight distortions of light around the eyes. By the end of the week, 2 participants developed anxiety severe enough to require medical attention. The study concluded inconclusively. There was no scientific explanation, but it added to the growing legend. The climax of the painting's story arguably occurred during a high-profile exhibition in 2015. The painting was displayed publicly under strict supervision. Thousands came to see it. Within hours, several visitors fainted or reported extreme anxiety. One security guard claimed he saw the eyes move independently and heard a faint, almost mocking laugh. Museum staff were forced to temporarily remove the painting for safety reasons. Footage from the event showed nothing unusual, yet witnesses' accounts were chillingly detailed. All these incidents point to a terrifying conclusion. The Midnight Portrait is not just a painting. It is an enigma that interacts with human consciousness in ways we cannot fully explain. Whether through psychological suggestion, an unknown form of energy, or some supernatural presence, it has left a trail of fear, obsession, and tragedy over nearly 2 centuries. After nearly 2 centuries, the Midnight Portrait remains one of the most mysterious and unsettling works of art ever created. Its story is a mix of history, legend, and documented experiences, leaving a trail of curiosity, fear, and obsession that continues to captivate the world. From Leonard Malthus' studio in the 1800s to modern museum exhibitions, the painting has left an undeniable mark on those who encounter it. What makes it truly fascinating is how it blurs the line between reality and perception. Is the curse real? A supernatural imprint of a trapped spirit? Or simply the power of the human mind responding to suggestion, fear, and expectation? Scholars, psychologists, and paranormal investigators all offer different explanations, yet none can fully account for the breadth of experiences. The painting seems to exist as a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears back at us, testing our minds, and challenging our sense of what is real. The accounts of vanished students, obsessed collectors, and terrified visitors are sobering reminders that human curiosity can come at a cost. The stories are not just urban legends. They are documented events spanning decades that consistently describe eerily similar phenomena. Shadows, whispers, unexplained movements, and that haunting gaze all serve to create an atmosphere of unease that no scientific or psychological explanation has fully resolved. Perhaps the true curse is not in the painting itself, but in how it affects those who look too long, think too deeply, or seek to possess it. The allure of understanding the unknown is powerful, irresistible even. The painting does not force itself upon anyone. It waits, and those who engage with it may find themselves drawn into a web of mystery and obsession that is difficult to escape. In a way, the Midnight Portrait has become more than a painting. It is a symbol of human fascination with the unknown, a reminder that some mysteries may be beyond our control or comprehension. It challenges our understanding of art, psychology, and even reality itself. It teaches us that not all beauty is safe, that not all curiosity is harmless, and that some truths, no matter how enticing, carry consequences. So, what do we take away from this story? Perhaps it is a warning. Some objects hold more than mere history or craftsmanship. Some carry echoes of the past, fragments of the people who touched them, and the weight of human imagination and fear. And some, like the Midnight Portrait, may carry a piece of something we cannot see or explain, waiting silently for the next person who dares to meet its gaze. If you ever find yourself in front of a painting that seems to stare back, remember this. Sometimes it's safer to look away. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be felt, experienced, and respected. If this story fascinated you, make sure to check out our next video to uncover even more chilling mysteries that history tried to forget.